The Templars were burned, hunted, and erased from history. Or were they? On Friday the 13th of October 1307, a coordinated sweep across France brought the mighty Knights Templar to their knees. Thousands were arrested on charges of heresy, blasphemy, and devil worship. Their Grand Master, Jacques de Molay, would eventually be burned at the stake, seemingly extinguishing a powerful military order that had dominated medieval politics, banking, and warfare for nearly 2 centuries. Yet whispers persist through the corridors of history. Not all Templars were captured that fateful day. The arrest orders missed many. Ships disappeared from their naval base at La Rochelle. Vast treasures vanished without a trace. Knowledge accumulated from Jerusalem to Paris seemed to evaporate, only to resurface in coded form centuries later. Could the Templars have survived not merely as an idea, but as a bloodline? Did the warrior monks, forbidden from marriage but not always obedient to this rule, perpetuate their lineage through secret unions and strategic alliances? Could their descendants still walk among us, hidden in plain sight, perhaps even among the power brokers of our modern world? The conventional history books tell one story. The ancient stones, forgotten documents, and mysterious symbols scattered across Europe tell another. Between these contradictions lies a tantalizing possibility that the Templars engineered their own survival through the most powerful means available: blood, marriage, and offspring, who would carry forward their mission across generations. To understand how the Templars might have survived, we must first understand how they fell. Their origin was humble enough. 9 knights pledging in 1119 to protect Christian pilgrims traveling to the Holy Land. Baldwin II, King of Jerusalem, granted them quarters on the Temple Mount, believed to be the site of Solomon's Temple, giving rise to their name, poor fellow soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon. What followed was an unprecedented rise to power. Within decades, the Templars evolved from a small band of protective knights into Western Christianity's elite fighting force. Pope Innocent II's papal bull Omni Datum Optimum in 1139 granted them extraordinary privileges: exemption from local laws, freedom from taxes, and answerable only to the Pope himself. Their military prowess became legendary during the Crusades, with their distinctive white mantles bearing red crosses striking fear into Muslim forces. But it was their financial innovation that truly transformed medieval society. The Templars essentially invented banking as we know it, creating history's first multinational financial institution. Pilgrims could deposit assets in a Templar house in Europe and withdraw funds in Jerusalem using a coded letter, avoiding the dangers of traveling with wealth. By the early 14th century, the order had become a state within states. They owned over 9,000 properties across Europe and the Middle East. Kings borrowed from them. Their fleet rivaled those of maritime powers. They had developed sophisticated encryption methods, architectural innovations, and possibly even early navigation techniques that predated the age of exploration. This immense power made them dangerous to the established order. King Philip IV of France, deeply indebted to the Templars and covetous of their wealth, conspired with Pope Clement V, whom Philip had helped install, to bring down the order. The accusations were shocking: denying Christ, spitting on the cross, idol worship, and homosexual practices. Under torture, many Templars confessed to these charges, though most recanted when given the opportunity. The coordinated arrests on October 13, 1307, should have captured all Templars in France, yet records indicate many were never found. When authorities opened the Paris Temple treasury, expecting to find the French crown jewels and Templar gold, they discovered the vaults mysteriously empty. The order's fleet at La Rochelle, 18 ships by some accounts, had vanished overnight. Jacques de Molay's execution in 1314, burned slowly on an island in the Seine River, was supposed to mark the definitive end of the Templars. According to legend, as flames consumed him, de Molay cursed both King Philip and Pope Clement, prophesying they would join him before God's throne within a year. Remarkably, both men died within the prophesied time frame. But what of the Templars who were never captured? What of their knowledge, their treasure, and most importantly, their bloodlines? As the French monarchy's net closed around the Templars in France, evidence suggests a coordinated escape plan had already been activated. The most compelling theory points to Scotland as a primary refuge. At the time, Scotland under Robert the Bruce stood excommunicated by the same pope who had betrayed the Templars. This made Scotland not only beyond papal authority, but actively hostile to it, the perfect sanctuary. Maritime records and local Scottish legends tell of ships arriving along the Scottish coast in the weeks following the arrests in France. The Aberdeen Register, a medieval document, notes unusual naval activity in late 1307. These vessels reportedly carried Templar knights, treasure, and sacred artifacts. The timing is particularly significant. Robert the Bruce was fighting for Scotland's independence against England, and his excommunication made him a natural ally for the persecuted Templars. The Battle of Bannockburn in 1314 provides our most tantalizing evidence of Templar survival. Outnumbered nearly 3-1 by English forces, Bruce's army achieved a stunning victory that secured Scottish independence. Chronicles describe a critical moment when a fresh force of unknown knights with fighting skills reminiscent of Templar tactics turned the tide of battle. Could these have been Templar refugees repaying Bruce's protection with military expertise? Portugal offers another compelling survival theory. King Dinas of Portugal, rather than suppressing the Templars, simply rebranded them. He created the Order of Christ, which inherited Templar properties, membership, and knowledge. This reconstituted order later became instrumental in Portugal's Age of Discoveries, with their cross emblazoned on the sails of ships like those of Vasco da Gama and Ferdinand Magellan. Henry the Navigator, who spearheaded Portuguese exploration, served as Grand Master of the Order of Christ, effectively a Templar successor organization. Switzerland, which gained independence around the time of the Templar Suppression, presents another intriguing case. Before 1300, Switzerland had no tradition of banking, military prowess, or fierce independence. After the Templar fall, Switzerland rapidly developed all three characteristics. The Swiss flag, a white cross on red background, inverts the Templar cross's colors. Could the nascent Swiss Confederation have benefited from an influx of Templar warriors, bankers, and organizational expertise? Underground survival also took institutional forms. The sudden emergence of Freemasonry, with its emphasis on Solomon's temple symbolism, stonemason tools as spiritual metaphors, and secretive initiation rituals, has long been suspected as a Templar continuation. While mainstream historians dispute a direct organizational link, the symbolic connections are undeniable. Early Masonic rituals included elements reminiscent of Templar traditions, including references to the Temple of Solomon and oaths of secrecy that echo Templar practices. The most compelling evidence for Templar survival, however, may lie not in organizations but in bloodlines. The biological continuation of the order through strategic marriages and hidden lineages that would preserve their influence across generations. While Templar knights officially took vows of chastity, historical records reveal this rule was irregularly observed. Many knights joined the order after having families, while others maintained secret relationships. Some may have strategically created alliances through marriage or procreation, especially as the order's suppression loomed. These unions, particularly with noble families, could ensure their legacy continued, even if the order itself was destroyed. The most controversial bloodline theory connects the Templars to what some researchers call the Holy Bloodline, purported descendants of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. According to this theory, The Templars' true mission during their occupation of the Temple Mount wasn't merely protecting pilgrims, but recovering documents and relics proving this bloodline's existence. The theory suggests that the Merovingian dynasty of early France carried this bloodline, which the Templars later protected. While mainstream historians and theologians dismiss these claims, the historical record does show unusual Templar interest in Mary Magdalene. Many Templar churches were dedicated to her, and regions with strong Templar presence often featured prominent Magdalene cults. The village of Rennes-le-Château in southern France, a site of significant Templar activity, became infamous for discoveries suggesting knowledge of this sacred bloodline. More historically verifiable are connections between Templars and European royal houses. The Sinclair family, or St. Clair, provides one of the most documented links. William Sinclair, whose family had Templar connections, built Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland, a structure overflowing with Templar and Masonic symbolism. The chapel's architecture contains imagery combining Christian, Jewish, Islamic, and pagan elements, reflecting the syncretic knowledge Templars had acquired in the East. The Sinclair family later became hereditary Grand Masters of Scottish Freemasonry, and their family tree intertwines with numerous European royal houses. Their ancestral home at Rosslyn contained architectural features that predated their official discovery in Europe, including American plant species carved into stone before Columbus's voyage, suggesting they possessed knowledge from Templar maritime explorations. The Stuart dynasty of Scotland and later England maintained connections to esoteric Templar-influenced traditions. When the Catholic King James II was deposed in England's Glorious Revolution of 1688, Jacobite movements supporting the Stuarts became intertwined with Scottish Rite Freemasonry, widely considered the most Templar-influenced branch of Masonic tradition. In France, even as the monarchy that destroyed the Templars fell to revolution in 1789, certain noble families maintained traditions suspiciously aligned with Templar knowledge. The Dukes of Burgundy, who created Europe's premier chivalric order, the Order of the Golden Fleece, incorporated Templar elements into their ceremonies. The powerful House of Lorraine, which through marriage became the Habsburg-Lorraine dynasty ruling Austria-Hungary, maintained traditions and symbols connected to esoteric Templar knowledge. Banking dynasties provide another compelling bloodline connection. The rise of great banking families in Europe, particularly in Italy, Germany, and later England, occurred in the power vacuum left by the Templar banking network's destruction. Families like the Medicis, who dominated Renaissance Florence and produced 4 popes, utilized financial instruments remarkably similar to Templar innovations. Later, banking families like the Rothschilds employed systems of international finance, coded communication between branches, and even architectural symbolism that paralleled Templar practices. The bloodline theory gains further credibility through persistent symbols associated with these families. The octagon, the Red Cross, and specific types of Gothic architecture appear repeatedly in family crests, buildings, and ritual objects. Certain noble families maintain private chapels with unusual features. Hidden chambers, acoustical anomalies, astronomical alignments, and symbolic decorations matching Templar sites in the Holy Land. Perhaps most intriguing is the documentation of secret knowledge transmission through generations. Family grimoires, private instruction books, specialized architectural knowledge, and banking practices were preserved through carefully arranged marriages between families sharing Templar connections. The preservation of ancient languages, particularly Aramaic and early Hebrew forms, among certain European noble families has puzzled historians, but makes sense as preservation of skills needed to decipher Templar recovered documents from Jerusalem. Through strategic intermarriage, these families, whether carrying literal Templar bloodlines or simply their traditions, created a hidden network spanning Europe, preserving ancient knowledge while presenting conventional Christian facades to the world. The Templar bloodline legacy, if real, did not remain frozen in medieval amber, but evolved through centuries to manifest in our modern world. Today's evidence ranges from the symbolic to the scientific, from architectural anomalies to cutting-edge DNA research. Modern secret societies provide the most visible Templar legacy. Freemasonry's Scottish Rite explicitly incorporates Templar elements, including a specific degree called Knight Templar. The Sovereign Military Order of Malta, a Catholic order with observer status at the United Nations, maintains traditions and symbols with striking similarities to Templar practices. More controversial groups like the Priory of Sion, while dismissed by many historians as a modern invention, claim direct Templar heritage through bloodline succession. Banking and finance, the arena where Templars made their most lasting innovations, continue to show their influence. The modern banking system's fundamental structure, interconnected institutions operating across national boundaries with standardized practices, mirrors the Templar model. Switzerland's banking system, with its emphasis on secrecy and neutrality, particularly reflects Templar banking principles. Even the modern concept of a bank check derives from the Templar practice of written drafts, negotiable at any preceptory. Architectural legacy provides physical evidence of continuing Templar influence. Buildings constructed centuries after the order's official dissolution incorporate distinctive Templar elements, octagonal structures, specific proportional systems, and astronomical alignments. Washington, D.C. street layout, designed by Freemason Pierre L'Enfant, contains geometric patterns matching those found in Templar churches. The Pentagon, the world's largest octagonal building, embodies the Templars' favored geometric form, traditionally associated with the transition between earth and heaven. Modern elite families with potential Templar connections maintain fascinating traditions. Several European noble houses still conduct private ceremonies on dates significant to the Templar calendar. Banking families like the Warburgs, Rothschilds, and Rockefellers established foundations dedicated to preserving ancient knowledge and architectural restoration of sites with Templar connections. The Cecil family, which has produced multiple British prime ministers and maintains close royal connections, preserves artifacts with Templar symbolism at their ancestral home, Hatfield House. Genetic science has opened new avenues for investigating Templar bloodline claims. The Sinclair DNA project uses modern genetic testing to trace connections between scattered branches of this family with documented Templar ties. Broader genetic studies of European noble families have identified unusual Middle Eastern genetic markers in certain lineages, potentially supporting theories about bloodlines originating in Jerusalem during the Crusades. Templar symbols persist in modern iconography with remarkable resilience. The red cross on white background appears not only in national flags, England, Switzerland, Georgia, but in organizations like the Red Cross itself. The skull and crossbones, a symbol found on Templar tombs representing mortality and resurrection, became both the pirate Jolly Roger and a universal symbol for danger. The famous Templar seal, showing two knights sharing one horse, evolved into logos for financial institutions and insurance companies. Some researchers point to the persistence of Templar knowledge systems in unexpected places. Navigational techniques supposedly known only to Portuguese explorers, successors to the Templars through the Order of Christ, appear in Renaissance maps predating Portugal's official discoveries. Banking practices attributed to 17th century innovations existed in private family records centuries earlier. Astronomical knowledge thought lost until Copernicus appears in architectural alignments of buildings constructed by families with alleged Templar connections. Perhaps most compelling is the continued protection of specific sites across Europe. Certain churches, monuments, and landed estates have remained under the stewardship of the same families since the 14th century. Families with documented or suspected Templar connections. These properties often contain sealed crypts, hidden chambers, or unusual artifacts not available for public or academic inspection. Whether maintaining actual genetic descent from Templar Knights or preserving their esoteric knowledge through institutional succession, these modern expressions suggest the Templar legacy remains very much alive, hidden not through complete secrecy, but through transformation and adaptation across the centuries. The Knights Templar, officially consigned to history's flames in the early 14th century, left behind a mystery that continues to smolder. Their abrupt fall created perfect conditions for legends to flourish, but also for genuine survival strategies to succeed. The evidence, while circumstantial, builds a compelling case. The Templars may have physically perished as an order, but their bloodlines, knowledge, and influence perpetuated through carefully constructed channels. The sudden disappearance of their fleet and treasure, the inexplicable gaps in arrest records, the emergence of similar symbols, practices, and architecture in the decades following their suppression, the rise of banking families employing Templar financial techniques, the preservation of esoteric knowledge that should have died with them, the persistent connection of certain noble bloodlines to Templar sites, symbols, and calendar observances. These threads, when woven together, suggest not coincidence, but continuity. If the Templars did survive through bloodlines, what might this mean for our understanding of subsequent history? What role might their descendants have played in the Renaissance, the Age of Exploration, the Enlightenment, or even the founding of nations like the United States? What ancient secrets, whether technological, spiritual, or historical, might remain hidden in vaults, coded manuscripts, or oral traditions passed through generations? Most intriguing is the possibility that Templar bloodlines continue to influence our world. The banking systems we use daily, the architectural principles shaping our cities, the symbolic language embedded in national flags, corporate logos, and cultural artifacts, perhaps even the power structures governing international relations. The Templars understood that stone buildings might fall and written records might burn, but bloodlines, carefully maintained through strategic marriages and protected knowledge transmission, could preserve their legacy for centuries. The order may have died in the flames, but its blood may yet run through the veins of kings, bankers, and secret keepers. In the end, perhaps this is the Templars' greatest achievement. Not the battles they won in Jerusalem or the banking innovations they pioneered, but their transformation from a temporal organization vulnerable to kings and popes into a dispersed legacy flowing through history like an underground river, invisible on the surface, yet continuing to shape the landscape above.